Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farms, Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us again today. So today we are talking about mixing feed. We already have a video about mixing feed right here, but today we're going to add to that video. We're going to tell you what to do if you live in a location where you only have access to feed from the big box stores. Stay tuned to find out more. So here we have a bag of generic 12% sweet feed. This is what you can pick up at Tractor Supply. I know Rural King has a different kind, but this is just generic 12% sweet feed. So what's wrong with this? Well, nothing is necessarily wrong with this, but there are a few things that you can do to make it a whole lot better. The other thing that I want you to consider with this is it's got a ton of phosphorus in it. Well, not a ton, but the phosphorus-calcium ratio is out of whack. And as we talked about in this video right here, you need to watch your phosphorus and calcium ratio. Otherwise, you're going to start having your males throwing urinary calculi on you, and that is absolutely no good. If you have little ones and you are creep feeding, this is an absolute no-no. They're not going to go after it very well because it just doesn't taste very good to them. And it's going to take them longer to get started on it. Eventually, it's the only thing they have, so they will get started on it. But again, doesn't protect against coccidiosis, doesn't protect them against urinary calculi. It's only 12%. It's not texturized, it's just in pellet form. So again, they're just not going to go after it very well. So what I'm going to show you today is how to take this bag of mediocre feed and turn it into something a whole lot better. We're going to give you at least 3 different options. I'm going to give you 2 options that you can do from the store, and then I'm going to give you a bonus option to talk about what to do if you can at least order, if you're willing to order some stuff from Hunter Nutrition. So let's get started talking about option number 1. Option number 1 is simply going to be 12% feed mixed with a little bit of molasses and a little bit of oats. This isn't ideal, but if you don't have access to some of the other ingredients and if you're making it specifically for sheep, this is the option that you want to follow. Now in our subsequent video, video number 2, I'm going to show you how to add in some calf manna or some of the generic calf manna, and it's going to raise the protein way up. But again, the problem with that is it's got a lot of copper in it, and you're not going to be able to feed that to your lambs. So if you only have 12% sweet feed and you want to make it better for your lambs, option number 1 that we're going to do right now is what you want to do. All right, so everything we're going to talk about is real easy. Get a scoop. I don't care what size scoop it is, but the metal scoops about this size tend to work really good. It doesn't matter what size scoop as long as you use the same size scoop for everything. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to scoop out 6 scoops of sweet feed. 6. So I'm going to take my 6 scoops of sweet feed and I'm going to put them up here in my cement mixer. Four, 5, and 6, and it just so happens that with this size scoop, I'm not sure what size scoop this is, but if you get one about this size, it just works out right that 6 of these is half a bag, half a 50-pound bag. So I'm going to do 6 scoops of the sweet feed, 2 scoops of the medicated sheep and goat feed that I have a picture of right here. So 2 scoops of that, and then 1 scoop of oats that I have a picture of right here. All right, put those in. Make sure you stand clear and turn it on. That's good. Just enough to get it mixed up. I tilt it back to get it level. And I'm going to put just a little bit of molasses in there. You can pick up molasses at many of your local stores. Try not to buy it at the grocery store. It's way overpriced. I'm going to put about a cup of molasses in there. If you look at my jugs here, these are honey gates. If you look up on Amazon, you'll see the link below. In the description below, you can pick up these honey gates. They're used for people that harvest honey, and it's a nice setup to help you put your molasses in. So I'm going to cover the molasses completely with the feed. It'll help it from sticking. I'm going to turn it on and immediately tilt it down. I'm going to tilt it as far down as I can to where it's not actually spilling out. Which works out perfect right about there. So I'm going to let this stir for a moment. And what this is going to do is going to allow the molasses to coat the feed, and it's going to make the feed nice and sticky. And that's when we're going to add in our cup of crushed limestone. Now our cup of crushed limestone is what is going to help change our calcium and phosphorus ratio and change this from being phosphorus heavy to now it's going to be calcium heavy, and it's going to keep our animals from developing those urinary calculi that we talked about in the past. So I've got my cup of crushed limestone here. Just add that in. And it'll mix it in and it'll coat the feed. And that's it. If you come up here and look, you'll see we have a nice feed with a little bit of limestone in there. It's got a nice smell to it. It's just a little sticky. It's been coated with the molasses, and the lambs are really going to go after this. So this did not change the protein level much. That's the downside of this. So this is still only at about 12.5% now. Even though the medicated feed is 15%, just when we go through the ratios of things, the oats is only 9% protein, the medicated feed is 15%, and then we've got 12%. When we crunch the numbers, it comes out to like 12.3 repeating. But way more nutritious for your lambs, especially in their creep setting. You don't have to worry about urinary calculi, protects them from coccidiosis. They're going to go after it way faster because of the flavoring. This is just a far superior product than what you started with before for very, very little cost increase from what you initially spent on the 12%. So that is option number one. Let's move on to option number two. And again, here's what we're looking at. This is our finished product that we just made. Like I said, really nice, a little bit more texturized, tastes a little bit better for the animals. And as you can see, if you look closely, you can actually see some of the limestone in there, but that's really going to help out a lot with the urinary calculi. This is my Harbor Freight cement mixer. I looked it up this morning just to kind of see what the cost would be. I think it's a little over $200. And then of course Harbor Freight always has always has 20% off. So very little amount of money. I don't think this thing would be worth very much for mixing concrete, to be honest with you, but it works great for mixing feed. So yeah, and I use garbage cans. I just mix my feed up and just scrape it right into a garbage can. So yeah, works pretty good. All right, so here we are with option number two. Option number two is going to be for our goats, and this is the difference. This is the Do More, Vita More. Essentially, this is calf manna. Again, only for goats, unfortunately, because this stuff has a lot of copper in it. And if you give it to the sheep, as you know, copper causes copper toxicity in sheep, and it's no good. But again, this is a situation where we only have supplies from big box store. This mix that I'm about to show you right now is going to give you a really nice creep feed for your goats. That'll be coming in at over 14.5% protein. So let's get started doing that. Okay, so we're going to use our 6 scoops that we have left of our sweet feed as our base. So this is 6 scoops of sweet feed. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we're going to add 2 scoops of our calf manna or the Do More. This is actually 25% protein. So I got 1 and 2. This should have 12 scoops in it, so 1 bag should be enough to make 6 batches. Going to add 1 scoop of oats. And 1 scoop of the sheep and goat medicated feed. Okay, and again, just gonna fire it up. Let it mix. Just enough to combine it. I usually tilt it as forward as I can to where it's not spilling out. You can put a garbage can in front of it so it kind of catches some of the stuff that's wanting to fall out, but for the purpose of the video I'm not going to do that. Alright, so that's good there. Alright, and then I'll get my camera person to come up here and zoom in so I can kind of show you what I'm doing with my molasses. So what I do is I take my hand and I kind of make a well in here. That way when I let my molasses go in, it stays off the sides of my mixer here. To be honest with you, after a couple mixes, I'll actually take a scraper to this thing and clean it out. So that's enough right there. And then what I do, after I wipe this off so it's not dripping, is I take my hand and go in here and I cover that up. So it's covered. That way when I kick it on and flip it down, it doesn't stick to the paddles. So flip it on, tip it down quickly, and let it mix. Let it coat the feed. And you can pick up molasses at a lot of your local stores. We're going to be talking about Hunter Nutrition here on our next batch. And again, if you watch or if you go on Hunter Nutrition, if you go on their website that I'll have linked in the description, you can buy bulk molasses from them as well, and it's really reasonable. I think for 50 pounds of liquid molasses, it's something to the tune of like $20. Alright, so this is mixed pretty good. Now I'm going to grab my limestone. Let that mix in and coat. Again, you always want to do this in this specific order. We want that feed to be coated with the molasses first so we can get the limestone to stick evenly. This is where you're going to run into trouble if you don't have molasses. You really can't throw the limestone in dry feed because it's just not going to stick and it's not going to work out right. All right. So that is that. And again, if you come over and look, you can see we've got a really superior product to what we originally had. 14.5% protein mix, well coated, nice and texturized, and your goats are really going to go after this. Far, far, far superior to what we were looking at before with just the plain 12%. All right, so this is option number 3. This is probably going to be your most expensive option, but this is going to be your highest protein option and probably your most nutritious. The reason that it's going to be expensive is because you're going to have to order some supplies that are going to be shipped freight, and they're going to be shipped from Hunter Nutrition. I don't get paid by Hunter Nutrition to tell you about his product. His product speaks for itself. People from all over the United States go to Hunter Nutrition for their show feed and for the best quality feed. It's just the best quality feed, hands down. So Hunter Nutrition, for people like you that don't have feed mills and things like that in your area, they have developed a product that is a 40% protein complete mix. That is this right here. It is in a pellet form, and this has everything you need for your lambs. This has all the vitamins, all the nutrients, all the coccidiosis medication, distiller's grains, everything you need. It is a 40% lamb pellet. The only thing that this doesn't have is copper. So if you're going to be using this to make goat feed, you're going to have to supplement your goats with a goat mineral that has copper in it. But this works perfectly for sheep. This mix that I'm going to show you now is actually going to make almost an 18% protein mix. So this is like a show quality mix. It also works great for lambs that are on creep for the initial part of life. After a while, you're going to want to drop this down. For the initial batch, the batch that I'm going to show you today, I'm going to be using 2 scoops of the 40%. If you wanted to use 1 scoop of the 40%, it's going to drop your protein level down to closer to 15%, which may be more useful for some of you. So 2 products we're going to talk about from Hunter Nutrition. We're going to talk about the 40% lamb, which is great because you're essentially paying for 1 bag to come to you. If you're making the 2 scoop, this is going to make 6 batches for you. If you're using the single scoop, this is going to make 12 batches for you. So that's a lot of feed. The other thing that I'm going to be using is Hunter Nutrition Show Pro Gold. This stuff it's a soybean oil base that has some artificial flavoring in it. It smells like butterscotch. It basically smells good enough that you're going to want to eat it. I wouldn't recommend it. It has added vitamin A, added vitamin D, added vitamin E, and I'm going to use a little splash of this. This is what I use in my own personal mix. It makes it smell so much better. The lambs really, really go after it because it tastes delicious to them, and it's just something to add to it. If you're going to be ordering from Jeff at Hunter Nutrition, I highly recommend getting yourself some Show Pro Gold liquid, the 40% lamb, and then the liquid molasses. I actually have one of the liquid molasses tubs right here. This is their molasses that you can order from them. Please don't buy your molasses in the grocery store, for goodness sakes. It's going to cost you as much for a jar in the grocery store that's, tiny, as almost as much as it's going to cost you for this. So don't do it. So without further delay, let's get started talking about our super lamb mix, that 17%, almost 18% lamb mix. All right, so again, with this, you're going to notice we're not going to be using the medicated feed in this batch because we don't need to, because the Hunter Nutrition 40% actually has all the coccidiosis medication in it that we need. So again, we're going to do our 6 scoops. You'll notice I always use the 6 scoops. The reason I use 6 is a couple reasons. 1, it's a nice base. 2, there's 12 scoops in a bag, so it just works out well. 4. Because then when I make my second batch, I can just dump the rest of the bag in. 5 and 6. My animals actually know when I'm making this. They're baaing in the background. They can hear the bags. This is my 1 scoop of oats. So we've got 6 scoops of sweet feed, 1 scoop of oats, 2 scoops of the Hunter Nutrition 40% lamb, and that is it. We're going to go ahead and turn this on. Again, combine just till it starts to get mixed. All right, shut it off. I'm going to make a little well. I'm going to put just about a cup of the Show Pro Gold in here. And be careful, this is going to come out much faster and much thicker than molasses. I didn't mean to say thicker. I just meant to say much faster and much thinner than the molasses. I'm going to mix this up first. Just till it's coated. That's good. Shut this down. Again, make my well. Fill up with a little bit of molasses. I would say this is, I would say I put about a cup to a cup and a half of molasses. You can use a measuring cup. I just eyeball it. Try not to overdo it with the molasses. You'll end up with a sticky mess. And if it's cold outside, really take it easy on the molasses, because what will end up happening is the feed will all freeze together, and that's not good. Okay. If you do this way, where you make the well and you cover it up before you start mixing, you'll see I don't get a lot of sticky mess inside the tub. Where you're going to run into trouble is if you don't cover it. Then it's going to start to stick and it's going to make a mess. I'm still going to add my limestone. And again, this is just crushed limestone. Very, very important. Again, if you haven't watched our video talking about urinary calculi, you're definitely going to want to check it out. All right, and that's it. So here we are. And let me get my scoop out here. And there's our finished product. Again, wonderful product. Smells and tastes better to the lambs, higher protein percentage, and they're really going to go after it. Now, if you want to get more advanced, we have a video located right here. This is kind of our original video on mixing feed, and it's a little bit more advanced. We add a lot more ingredients into our mix. It kind of shows you our mix. But again, this video was made specifically for those of you that live in rural areas and you don't have access to the products that we have access to. So I hope this was educational for you. I know you're probably going to have a lot of questions, and that's okay. That's what we want. We want you to ask questions. We like for you to comment in the description below, or excuse me, in the comment section below. If you have questions, chances are somebody else probably does as well. So feel free to check us out on Facebook, other YouTube videos, Instagram. Go to www.linessafarms.com. Send us a message, give us a call, mail us a letter, whatever it is that you want to do. We are here to help you out. Again, I am Tim from Linessa Farms Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.